Most people know me as the guy from X Factor who was put in this boy band called The Risk and who eventually quit. But I have a past, I have a story, and I'm more than just the guy from X Factor. I was put into care at the age of 2, and I stayed in care until I was an adult.
I was never adopted. I spent my childhood moving from children's homes to foster families. There are thousands of kids just like me.
I've had 35 addresses, but they're broken down into foster placements, children's homes, supported lodgings placements, B&Bs.
Do you know what any of the other guys are doing now?
Unfortunately, 2 died.
I want to meet kids who are growing up now just like I did, with no permanent home.
Most people end up in jail or they end up pregnant.
Would you rather pay the pain of regret where you spend the whole lifetime just hating your life and hating the fact that you didn't do anything with your life? It's dangerous.
And for the first time, I'm going to revisit my own time in care and confront my painful past.
I guess this place evokes a lot of ghosts and memories for me.
Hey, how's it going, Mum?
I think in my head I knew that I was in a bad situation.
I was put into care at the age of 2, and I stayed in care until I was an adult.
I was never put up for adoption in case my mum came back for me, but she never did.
I lived in a foster home, then I moved to a children's home, then to another foster home, then to another foster home. 4 moves, 4 upheavals, 4 totally different worlds.
But despite this disruption, I did well at school and went on to study at Cambridge. Success stories for care kids are rare. I'm one of the lucky ones. But even my childhood was full of pain and disruption. One of my earliest memories is of being taken from my first foster mum, Sissy. I was only 4. I've always thought it was because of my own bad behaviour, but I've never known for sure. So I'm going back to find out the real reason I was moved.
Sissy, how's it going? Love Sissy. I'm my first foster mum, but I was a bit of a handful for her, I think. More than she would probably like to admit. I remember one day being dragged home and I'm grabbing onto a car and I pull off the windshield because Sissy's trying to drag me and the police get involved. I was very inconvenient to an old lady. Do you remember the day I left? You were cooking macaroni and cheese. Mm-hmm. And I remember it, and then I was watching CBeebies, the children's programs, and yeah, it was such a normal day. And then they came in the car through the back garden, and he's like, Ashley, you have to go now, time to go now.
Because you didn't want to leave this house.
No, I didn't want to
So
leave.
that is the thing. And you asked me, where am I going, Sissy?
Yeah.
And I said to you, say, I'm getting old now, Ashley, so them have to put you with somebody younger. And you believe me?
Yeah.
That's the only reason why you go, otherwise you wouldn't go.
Yeah.
Social service decided that he's too close to me. They say you're too close to me.
It's a bit of a stupid reason.
No, it's not stupid.
Don't you think so?
No. It's, you see, you was young, your mother wasn't there, just me.
Yeah.
You feel that I'm the mother figure, the grandmother
figure. So they
figure.
basically thought he's becoming too close to this family, so...
No, that's not what they mean. They mean that you should meet other people outside as well, instead of just keep seeing me all the time. So you mix with other boys, you talk with different people, you know other people.
Yeah.
So you was a still much better person.
Do you think so?
Yes. You still the same nice person, but you know more people. You don't feel
surely,
that you.
I don't know, like.
You don't feel that you got to just cling to
when
one
I think
person.
about like the average 4-year-old, like they want to be with who they perceive as their mum or their dad. You know, they stick close to their parents. They're often quite attached. Surely that's natural, and it shouldn't be something that should be.
It is natural, but But when the person not your parents, I think you should mix with other people.
So then,
that when you move out.
I think, you know, things could have been done better. I felt at home.
Having grown very attached to Sissy, social services took me out of the foster home where I'd settled and moved me to a children's home.
Can you ever get over that? I remember that day so vividly.
Over a quarter of kids in care will spend time in a children's home. I was moved to Rosebery Street Children's Home for 5 years. It housed up to 7 kids with backgrounds of abuse, poverty and neglect. It's now a derelict site.
The house was here, and this garden was from here backwards, all around there. This was the garden, it's the house, the garage. I guess, you know, this place kind of evokes a lot of ghosts and memories for me.
Aged 8, I was already in my second foster placement. It's a familiar story. Most foster kids spend their childhoods moving around. At 16, the system can start to treat you as an adult, but this doesn't mean the moving stops. Sarah's been in care since she was 14. At 17, it was decided she was old enough to strike out alone. Since then, she's been in 3 different hostels.
Did you ever find that the freedom you had was a bit scary and daunting when you moved into your hostel?
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
At first, I loved it.
Yeah.
And then after, I thought, wow, like, it's a bit weird when, you know, my first mom used to ring me, make sure I was all right. And when I didn't have that no more, it was like, wow, like, no one actually cares.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
From all the people that I'm meeting, and even from my own experience, you know, many care leavers, when they get to 18, it's like social services just turf them out. You know, they push them into the big wide world to fend by themselves.
You're always on the edge. You're always expecting for something to happen. You're always expecting for a relationship to break down, either boyfriend, girlfriend, family, friends. You're always expecting something, hostel. You're always expecting something, and you're always living on the edge.
What you're telling me just reminds me of the devastating fact that so many people in care end up homeless. And can you understand why that happens?
Yeah, I do. Because it's like you don't have the emotional support. If you're moving around all the time and you haven't got no one to turn to, then you're gonna basically give up.
Wow.
And or like I don't know, most people, what they end up is like either in jail, or they end up pregnant, or involved in some sort of something, and they don't even know how they got there in the first place.
Often children don't know why they're being moved or where they're going. And with no one to talk to, foster care can be a lonely place to be. I'm visiting a support group called Voice, which gives people who have been in care a chance to talk about what they've been through.
I've been in care since I was 6 months old. I've had 35 addresses, but they're broken down into foster placements, children's homes. I was in 2 children's homes, supported lodgings placements, B&Bs. Some of them places were really good, but then some of them were pretty bad. One lot of the foster carers, they used to send me and my brother away for Christmas because they said that was family time. So we didn't get really involved in any of their family activities. We never really felt part of the family.
When I was moving to houses, I remember moving 3 times from when I was 11 till 13. Yeah. And I was thinking, who are these people? I wouldn't come downstairs to eat for 2 weeks. I would not eat.
I'm not surprised.
I would stay up in my room. I wouldn't even go to school. I was like, nah. Because I would have to come downstairs and basically introduce myself to these people who I don't know.
How many of you have felt that, in order to live in a home and be successful and to stay there for a long time, it's dependent on how you behave?
I've had 3 placements that I've been to that if I wasn't well behaved, or if I did this, or if I had an argument or something, I would have to move straight away. But when I first went there, the rules were behave.
My life wasn't really stable until I was 14. I moved in with who I consider mum and dad now, a decent set of foster carers that did put the effort in and did stick with me through all of my bad behaviour. But until then, people just weren't resilient enough. They're just this kid's a little git, we'll just move him on. You know what I mean? There's thousands of other kids in care, we'll just get another one.
kids I've met, they have one thing in common. There's no stability. Scott has lived in 35 addresses, which is crazy. He's my age and he's moved so much, you know, during his time in care. It's such a crazy existence when you're moving about so much. And I think stability, it needs to be implemented better for young people, because without stability, you're pretty much destroyed from a young age.
It's clear to me that kids in care are still being moved around all the time, and I want to know why. I'm meeting an expert from the Fostering Network to find out where things are going wrong.
On this journey, I'm realising that so many kids get moved about so much. I got moved 4 times.
Because there's a shortage of foster carers, when a child or young person comes into care, it may mean that there's a family 60 miles away, which may mean they have to move schools, they may have to be split up from their brothers and sisters and have to live a long way from their family. Or what can happen is that a child will move from home to home until a suitable family is found.
How can these moves affect young people?
Well, if a young person is moved from family to family, they can feel abandoned, it affects their ability to form relationships. They may end up in this kind of same relationship, the same pattern that they've been going through. So a lot of children that have been through the care system, their own children end up in care.
Do you think there's a crisis in the fostering system?
Yeah, I certainly do. The foster care system is bursting at the seams. We have huge numbers of children coming into foster care. Children are coming into foster care earlier. Local authorities are being more risk averse. This year alone, we need an additional 9,000 foster families to look after those children and to replace the ones that are leaving. If you speak to social workers, a lot will tell you that a lot of children come into care on a Friday night, 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. And so I've heard stories, and as far as I understand it happens quite frequently, is social workers just going through their lists of foster carers, phoning them up and saying, have you got a bed for the night to look after this young person? There is a lot of stigma attached to being in foster care, and actually, although you hear a lot of celebrities talking about being adopted, you hear very few celebrities, well-known people, talking about growing up in the care system. There are problems, there are difficulties, but it's not something to be ashamed of.
My last foster placement was one of my happiest. Felicia and Irvin made me feel welcome and part of their family. I'm grateful they took me in, but I've never asked them what it's like to be a foster parent.
There's the bits and pieces.
Felicia, what was that like when I first came?
It was quiet and yeah, it was polite. I think he wanted to make a really good impression, and he did actually. And then it took him about a week to settle in, and then for the first week he was neat, he was tidy, he washed up his cups and his plates.
I remember because the foster carer before, I mean, I nearly got kicked out at one point because I didn't wash my cups up. I mean, sometimes your position as a foster child is that, you know, fragile, that if you do something wrong, you're kicked out because a foster carer can't handle it. So I certainly, but I felt comfortable here so quickly. Yeah. I realised that I didn't have to.
You didn't have to perform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I missed performing, so I auditioned for it. Yeah.
Go on, you take yours.
Yeah, one of these ones.
Foster caring, from our point of view, I believe it should be a job. Yeah, and it should be viewed as a job, because the emphasis is all about the children, which rightly so, but it also needs to have some emphasis about the carers. And I think that if they have more emphasis on the carers, also you'll encourage more people. There is a shortage of carers. Why is there a shortage of carers? Why doesn't people want to open their homes and allow, you know, a child to come in?
Why do you think that is?
I just think that it should be deemed as a job.
See, I've always thought that foster parenting shouldn't be a job, but I see what you're saying. If the foster parent is doing a good job, I wouldn't see you as doing a job. And I think
often foster carers can have a quite blasé, indifferent attitude towards it, and so they don't handle the responsibility as well as they could. They don't take the training as seriously. So that's good food for thought.
It's something to think about, because if you look at it from our point of view, you still have to live, you still have to have a roof over your head, still got bills to pay, and I don't really like to bring it down to money, because it's more than money. It's a vocation, and it's if you're called to be a foster carer, you do it wholeheartedly, because you want to do it. It's not something you can just go into it because you think it's a good idea, because you won't last the course.
I've asked lots of people, would you do fostering? And they said no. And these are nice people, but they said, no, I couldn't. I said, why is that? I couldn't just open my home to a stranger. Well, you know, so it is a calling. It's definitely, it's not something you just like, I was just going to do it. Not only that, actually, before, okay, it's a calling, but apart from just a calling, when you actually go for the training, it's very, very difficult. It is very, very intrusive. On our course, we probably had 20 people. And how many got through? 5?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I've never ever thought of fostering in terms of being a job, but it does make some sense, because these guys, they're trained for the role. They can't treat me, you know, fully like their biological children, because there are, you know, rules and guidelines which they have to abide by, and so they are consciously trying to uphold a certain role. And so I can understand that for them it's a job, but when they're doing it as a job, if they're doing a good job, I'm not aware that it's a job. I see them as family. My time with Felicia and Irvin took me through a crucial stage at school. While I was with them,